Directly reaching out to brands and businesses can be a great way for aspiring content creators to find their next project and get paid for making photo and video content. The question is just this though, how do you actually do that without being super annoying and salesy? And this is exactly what I want to show you in this little series. So this goes out to all you aspiring content creators that eventually want to go full-time, but just don't get enough clients and you really want to know how to go about that. That's why over the next episodes, I will show you exactly how I go step by step to finding potential new clients, and then eventually how I reach out to them to talk about potential projects. Should be tons of stuff for you to learn in this series, so let's get right into episode number 1. So, and with that, hello and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Florian, and on this channel, I'm sharing my personal journey of how I'm building my career as a professional content creator, so that hopefully you can learn a couple things along the way and then apply that for your situation. If that sounds like something that you've got planned for yourself, then subscribe down below to not miss any episodes. And for us to figure this thing out together, shall we? I want to really break it down for you in a little step-by-step process that you can then also apply to your situation. The very first thing that we're actually going to figure out is, what do we actually want to offer? So in this case, what kind of service can I offer to a potential client? The next thing we're going to figure out is, which client do we actually want to offer this for? Then after that comes a big step, and that is to really dig deep into Instagram, probably to really sort out what kind of clients we could go for that could fit the kind of project that I'm doing. Next step that we're going to figure out after that is that my website, my Instagram, my email signature, and all that they see when I first reach out to them really looks professional and on top and speaks to them. Then we're going to actually set up a pitch email that I'm going to be sending to them. I might actually also try to reach them on other channels, like with the DM on Instagram or Facebook, to really make sure that they receive my message. We're going to write that email out. And then next step after that is we're going to try to come up with something special that really makes our email stand out and gives them a reason why to open it and why to actually get in contact with us. And then in the end, there's really just one thing left to do, and that is to send out that email and then maybe follow up if we don't get a reply, or ideally to get in a talk and see if there might be a potential project down the road. So these are the steps that we're going to go for. In this video today, we're probably going to be talking about mainly how to really define what kind of project we want to offer, and then really what kind of client would we like to offer this for? Because make no mistake, they will also be getting flooded with all sorts of offers via email. If you're looking for some bigger known company or brand, there's going to be tons of people that want to work with them. So, and with that, let's jump over the computer and get started, shall we? Okay, but before we're actually going to get our hands dirty and actually start reaching out, I think we need to clarify a couple of different approaches. I really found for myself there is 2 different approaches that you can go about this. The first one is going to be the shotgun approach. So you basically just blast out to as many potential clients or brands as possible with some sort of a very simple generic email to then just go on the radar and make it a numbers game. So the more you reach out, the more likely it is that you're actually going to hit something. But it's not going to be very targeted or very specific. And the other risk also is that a lot of people might perceive it as spam. So you're just going to reach out and send that generic email. Hey, I'm a content creator from so-and-so, and I produce this kind of stuff looking for work. Are you down? So from my point of view, and I'm getting such kind of emails the other way around as someone that people try to reach out and work for, it gets very annoying very quickly. And I barely ever read those emails that start talking about oneself first. So the other approach that we can go about is what I would rather call the sniper approach. So instead of just making a blast with whole bunch of small bullets like in a shotgun, instead we take one huge bullet and try to really specify the target that we're going to be going for. So instead we might just be sending out a handful of emails, maybe to 4, 5, 6 different brands or companies, but we really pick exactly the ones that would fit, so that when they open the email and they read it and they think like, okay, it actually makes sense that that person reached out to us and is trying to offer us something. So throwing back, step 1, we need to really define what we're actually going to be offering. If you're anything like me, then as a content creator in the very beginning, you just take every single project that you can get your hands on. So in the beginning, I did a whole bunch of stuff that was just editing or shooting an event or recording something for a small business, or then maybe taking photos for private customers. So it was all over the place. In this video up here, I explained to you that the big benefit of now doing the cold outreach, where we initially try to reach someone, is going to be that we can really define what kind of service for which kind of project we want to offer. And ideally, it's going to be the one that is, first of all, the one that we enjoy doing the most. And second one, of course, ideally the one that is most profitable and brings in the most money. So that's the very first thing that we're going to be doing. For me, this now is pretty clear because I just a few months ago did a very, very cool and big project for an international brand called Mammut. And basically what I did for them, I planned and organized the content for an entire Instagram campaign, and then also edited a whole bunch of content pieces that were for that campaign. And since this was such a big project that is also very cool for my portfolio, I decided that those kind of projects are the ones that I really want to be doing more in the future, because those also mean that they're for a bigger company, therefore it's usually going to be much bigger budgets. So that's really what I want to be offering. For you, think about it. What was the favorite project that you recently did? Ideally, maybe one that already you got paid for. Really get into it. What was the favorite kind of project that you would like to be doing? And that's exactly what we're going to be offering. And now, for the sake of the experiment, so that we can follow along, for me, it is to produce video-based branding and advertising campaigns on social media. Okay, so step one actually done. And that actually brings us to the next point, because now we've figured out what kind of a bullet we have in our chamber, and now we need to figure out where we're going to be shooting it for. So, meaning step number two, we need to figure out what's our ideal client that we want to be going for. For you, that might be that you took photos for a local barbershop or a bakery or something along those lines, which means that you then need to think about, okay, maybe are there other businesses that are similar, maybe something bigger where I could offer to shoot that kind of photo service and get hired for by several different businesses, maybe in your city. For me, this is very clear that I need to be looking for some international brands that really might also be in need of such kind of a branding or advertising campaign, especially on a platform like Instagram. So this already excludes so many options and so many previous companies that I've been working with. But this in the long term will allow me to really specialize on one kind of project and then become the expert in that field, which eventually also is going to have a big impact on how much you're actually going to be getting paid for that. Because one very important thing from my experience is that you need to show a very concrete reference of what you actually want to be producing for them. Ideally, it is something that you've already done successfully in the past, and that's going to make it so much easier to get in contact with any sort of new brand or business, and then quickly build that trust that you're actually capable of delivering something like this. In the case of the last campaign that I did for Mammut, that was really cool for me because I really enjoy going in the mountains. I really go out. I'm personally not like an extreme hiker, skier, or climber, or any of that. But as you maybe know by now, I'm a huge cycling fan, and in that entire kind of outdoor sector, there's going to be a lot of brands that this reference that I have could apply very well for and be very convincing. So this means for our little experiment, the kind of ideal client that I want to be going for are, let's call them international outdoor apparel brands. Brands for outdoor enthusiasts, ideally for sports, even best if I find something that goes in the direction of cycling, because that's one of the topics that I'm personally most passionate about. And so that leaves us ending up with a very defined kind of a project that I want to be doing for a very, very small group of potential clients and businesses. Being very specific makes it, in my experience, a lot easier to make this cold outreach be successful. So coming up to that point, I just made a list with all sorts of brands that I personally use their products. Some clothing brands, brands for helmets, brands for sunglasses, brands for cycling parts, bicycles, and all such kind of brands that could see themselves in a campaign like the one that I recently did for Mammut. And we're actually going to be jumping over to the computer right now for me to show you a couple of how I really found them through Instagram. I figured instead it might be easier if we just do it on the phone. So for this entire thing to make sense, I think the easiest is if we just quickly take a look at the campaign, the previous campaign that I actually helped organize, so that we actually get a clear understanding for what kind of content we're looking at. And that'll make it much easier when we look at special brands in their Instagram account to see if something like this would fit for them. So everything that you can see from here on the left where it says Local Adventure Challenge, so everything that came after that was the content that we organized during that campaign. There's been a lot of video clips, but a lot of photos also, individual photos, then these 60-second long videos, as well as like shorter clips where it's just like a time lapse or a mountain view, all those kind of things. And Mammut itself, they have like 360,000 followers on Instagram now. That's what we're going to keep in mind now when we're going to be looking for other brands. Figured I'd share that entire process of how I'm looking for potential companies to work with, so that you get a feel for and how you could apply that for your situation. So, and as I mentioned before, I really spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, what kind of cycling equipment am I using? What kind of companies do I already like and know their products? Because in the end, if I already take all that time and effort in reaching out to special brands, then it might as well be the ones that I would really want to work with. And since there's so many different products that you actually have to use for some outdoor sports like cycling, the list actually pretty quickly got very long. So let's look at those brands and see how they present themselves on Instagram, so that we can get a feel for if any of those could really be a good fit and one of the first ones that we'd reach out to. So one of the first things that came to my mind was a company that's called Shimano. If you've ever been riding a bike, then it's very likely that there's been some parts on it that are from Shimano. They're making everything that has to do with shifting, brakes, sprockets, chains, all that sorts of stuff. So first thing that I see when I look at their Instagram, 850,000, it's like one of the biggest and most known brands. And in fact, if you see here, first thing that I notice is they actually use this hashtag of theirs, Ride Shimano. This is a very good thing because the campaign that we organized for Mammut, this was really a hashtag challenge that was supposed to animate people to participate and go out. That is something that a lot of brands really look for because it builds a lot of personal connection to the brand. That will be something that could work. I see a lot of pictures here that they have with professional athletes. So this doesn't really look like they have a lot of stuff with any sort of influencers or content creators. And they might be really, really big. So at first glance, maybe not the perfect fit, but I mean, I'd be super excited to make a project with them someday. Next thing that came to my mind is actually I'm using a bike from a brand called Ridley. I think it's a Belgium brand. So when I look at theirs, here, in fact, next thing, they have this hashtag Be Tough, right, for a chance to be featured. This is a really good sign because in the end, they are really animating people to take part in this. They're really focused on this community building. That is exactly what the goal was with the campaign for Mammut. So that could be something. Only problem that I could think of here is that with a campaign like this, where you want to produce a lot of content, and how we did it in the other case was by simply sending a lot of influencers and content creators actual products from the brand so that they could go out and shoot and record cool things with that. In a case of a company that's producing bikes, that can be pretty tricky because any of such a bike is quickly going to be 3, 4, 5, 6,000 euros. And that's not something that you can just simply send out to any sort of influencer or content creator. So in that case, maybe actual bicycle brands and bike manufacturers could be difficult, but they're definitely going to get a plus for not being one of the biggest in the world and already having this special hashtag that they're looking to build a community around. So, but the next thing that came to my mind is it's going to be much easier for something like clothing. And I often had this problem when I was cycling is that it's super freaking expensive. Cycling clothing, if you want to buy yourself a jersey or a pants, can quickly cost both together 400 euros, which is insane to me. So recently I was looking for any sort of cycling clothing that is affordable. And you might have heard of this company called Decathlon. So here in Germany, they have all sorts of these huge warehouses. And what they're basically doing, it's a company that's producing sports clothing and all sorts of sports articles for every single sport that you could think of. Running, cycling, climbing, horse riding, skiing, all that sorts of stuff. And they're mainly focused on clothing. What they mainly seem to try and go for is to make good quality, but very, very affordable clothing. So if I compare the prices for something like Decathlon with any sorts of other cycling brand that I would order something from, they were like half the price, which got me super excited. And I'm about to actually order something from them. I actually already have some of their stuff, so this could be a really good fit. I've been actually researching that company beforehand, and they have a lot of individual Instagram accounts for all different countries. Here you can see if we just look at that, this is highly produced, so they actually organized the shooting for that. That's a good sign because that means that they're spending money on content production. I did not see any particular hashtag, but I think they have been doing a lot of ads. They're trying to animate their audience to really go and do something. Decathlon itself, I actually Googled it beforehand. They have like something like 82,000 employees worldwide. So this might be a little bit out of my range, but I can always just approach the German Decathlon version. And here on the German side, they're actually using a hashtag where they seem to be the same thing with community building around that. So they get a double plus from me. This is definitely something that I'd be excited to work with because I recently been to one of their stores. I really like the clothing for the cycling stuff, so I could really imagine that. And that actually brings me to next kind of brand that I actually been looking into getting some of their clothing, but I just couldn't get around to it yet because for me it was a little bit on the pricey side. And this is this one. This is an Italian brand for cycling apparel, and they make really, really nice stuff. This looks really good. And it looks very high quality. And they really put a lot of emphasis on not being a brand that is sold through a retail store and then also makes a lot of intense sponsoring and all that sort of stuff with middlemen that earn something on it. So instead, they are a direct online to consumer brand, which is really good because this makes their prices more affordable. But on the other hand, that also means that they might not be super eager to spend a whole bunch of money on marketing. I know that they're doing a lot of performance marketing, so sponsored ads, I see many of them in my feed, probably because I've been on their website and all the cookies. But this would be a brand that I'd be super excited to work with. They have really high quality stuff. And actually, when I just looked on their website, they are using this hashtag called From the Peloton. Peloton, you have to know, that's a special cycling term. 23,000 posts, that alone. So they're also trying to build a community around that thing. So for them, it might be really interesting that in that entire challenge that we did, we had about 12,000 people just participating, sharing, using that hashtag that we set up with the local adventure challenge. So that also gets a plus from me. I don't have a personal connection because I've not been using any of their products before, different to, for example, Decathlon, where I've already have a set for cycling clothing, but that could look promising to me. Then the next thing that I can come up with is just really go along the lines of what am I actually gonna be buying anytime soon. And as I was about to buy a new cycling computer. So like the head unit where you can read out your heart rate and the power and the kilometers and the temperature and all that sort of stuff. And I'm so far been using a Garmin, and they're like a very huge brand. Garmin cycling, they have a smaller one, but Garmin itself is like very, very big. That's always where the moment comes where I'm thinking, okay, this might be really out of my league, but there's like this competitor company that has been getting a lot of traction in the last couple of years, and they're very known. And they, as you can see here, really spend a lot of effort in trying to build a community around it. So this company is called Wahoo, and they mainly make cycling computers as well as like cycling trainers where you could put your bike in and then train at home without having to go out. And there's this one computer that I'm about to order from them anyway. So I'm already convinced of the product. So why not try and reach out to them? And if I look at here in the Instagram account, they have this hashtag that they're using, Wahooligan. And you're actually going to be blown away by how many people are using that. So here, 250,000 shares, which means that they have a lot of brand recognition and a lot of people identify with that. So that will be really cool. They also definitely get a double plus from me. That'd be a company that I'd be super excited to work with. They sit in America, so it's not really that direct connection. So far, I haven't used any of the products yet, but I'm about to spend a few €100 on a cycling computer. So that will be the exact right moment to reach out to them and see if they would be down for a project. And that actually leads me to the next thing, because when you're cycling on this kind of a home trader, then there's some software that you use for actually making online races in cycling. Yeah, that's something that people do, and then they have computer screen in front of themselves and then race online against each other. And there's this company that makes a software where you can actually train against each other. So it looks a little bit like this. Quite funny, I know. You put the laptop in there. I've never done it before, but I'm dying to. So far, I just never got around to buy such a smart trainer for home because they are quite expensive. So this company is called Swift, and they also, very similar, have this hashtag that they're using, Go Swift, and a lot of people are using to share something around that. So from my point of view, that could also be something that could really work. In the cycling world, this is a company that is very well known, and the software is used by a lot of people, and it's the market leading thing in that sort of, you sit at home and cycle on your computer. So they would also get a big plus. So I guess by now you already get a feel for how this can actually go. And in the beginning I thought, it could be super difficult to limit myself to brands of a big international size that are in the field of cycling or outdoor sports. But turns out there are quite many that could fit together. And then, I mean, if you reach out to them, the likelihood that something's going to work, but that we're going to learn throughout the series, is always pretty slim, especially if you're just a single person like I am and not like a whole big agency or company yet. But never try, never know, right? And I think we can fast track a little bit the next few things that I could come up with. There's this company that I've been having helmet from that I've been always using. I think it's a French company. Here I did not see any sort of hashtag that they've been using. Could be something because I personally been using the product for a while, but doesn't really jump into my eye yet. I really like the helmet that I've been using, but for a project, I'm not sure if that's the right one. There's actually a Swedish one that I know. They're not really focused on cycling, but that doesn't really matter, because if I look at their Instagram account, this reminds me very much of the Instagram account from Mammut, actually. So it's very focused on skiing, very focused on outdoor, mountains, hills. So if I send them an email and they see the reference for the project with Mammut and they actually take me seriously for reaching out to them, I think in that case it could be a good door opener. And here you actually see that there's a lot of connection to cycling. They're making glasses and helmets. So this also definitely gets a plus from me. And here it actually says Stockholm, Sweden. Since I am in Sweden quite often, maybe that could also be a good connection. Not exactly sure, haven't used any of their products yet before, but only heard good things so far, so they also definitely get on the list. And that topic of cycling glasses actually leads me to the last one or two things that I could think of, and which was first of all Oakley. I mean, we all know Oakley. And then, that is probably a bit outside my league, but I mean, let's stay realistic here. That kind of a size of a company, they will very likely also be producing a lot of their own content. But I could think of another brand, and that one is really like focused on getting big with social media. They have so much media attention because some of the biggest cyclists in the world are using their glasses. And this is this company called 100%, and they already also have this Ride 100%. Probably a hashtag 100% bike. So let's have a check there. Seems to be really focused on a lot more with the mountain biking. A lot of photos from pro athletes, not a lot of product shots, not a lot of video here. There are some videos, but it all looks very extreme. Could try, doesn't instantly hit me that it's a perfect match. But since this is a brand that has a lot of this coolness factor with having the badass sunglasses, something like this could be a brand that really benefits from a lot of content production on social media. So they definitely also get on the list. Could try and reach out. Don't know what happens. So, but I hope that this has given you a little bit of an idea how you could go about actually figuring out what kind of brand or company would be the ideal one that you would want to work with together. In the end, of course, you need to be a little bit realistic, but there's this saying that always goes, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So worst thing that can happen, that either you don't get a response or you get a no. And if that happens, that happens. But that actually finished step number 3, scouting for potentials and come up with a short list of companies that you're actually going to go and reach out for. But cliffhanger, that's actually going to be enough for today's episode, and we're going to continue with this very soon. So make sure that if you haven't already, then subscribe down below. And on this side, actually here, I'm going to be linking a playlist of all the episodes that are connected to this little mini series that we're doing. That's it for today. See you next time.